Hi, I'm Josh McGrath.
I'm Andrew Haas.
And this is the Ardent Pursuit Podcast. When we launched the show, our goal was simple: to help men become initiators of romantic relationships that lead toward flourishing marriages. And over the last 50 episodes, we've shared practical tools for growth, preparation, and pursuit. As we've shared before, a 2021 Pew Research study revealed that 63% of American men under 30 are single. That's nearly 2 out of every 3 guys in their 20s. And the question people are asking is, why is that? Is it by choice, circumstance, or is something deeper going on? In this episode and over the next 2, we're going to begin unpacking some of the underlying reasons for this phenomenon. We're going to explore the cultural, emotional, and relational factors keeping so many men single. But before we do that, we want to invite you to subscribe to the show. You can watch the video on YouTube or listen with Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And remember to share it with your friends, because changing the dating culture starts with having a new kind of conversation. So Andrew, let's dive in here.
You know, a lot of people are asking why so many men are single. In fact, we've asked that question ourselves, you know, amongst friends. It could be amongst pastors. You'll see headlines now. And it's not just a Western thing. You'll see it in other parts of the world. There's just an increasing number of men who are choosing to remain single. Now, why is that? Of course, it's multifaceted. And we are going to spend this episode and the next 2 just kind of diving into some of the main reasons why we think that's happening.
There are a lot of underlying reasons why men are remaining single or may remain single. And while we want to identify maybe the most popular ones, we certainly aren't going to be exhaustive in all of the reasons. And today we're actually going to start with just 2. The first one will be trading marriage for a counterfeit. And then the second one is technology. And then we're going to conclude the episode by examining how these 2 things lead into a snowball effect of dysfunction in men's lives. So let's dive in here with number 1, trading marriage for a counterfeit.
Men in their pursuit of a relationship are often willing to take shortcuts that more or less scratch that itch.
Marriage actually affords men the opportunity to find purpose, to find value. They're able to connect on a sexual and an emotional and relational level. And sadly, because men don't oftentimes have vision for marriage, they still desire those things. But what they're doing is they're turning to counterfeit opportunities to find fulfillment in those rather than with a woman in covenant.
Yes, that's true. So often we have these desires, we have these wants, but we either don't know how to get to a place where those can be experienced in a healthy way, or we just simply don't want to put in the work. We think it's too much work, it's too hard, it'll take too long. And so we kind of make these value judgments that, okay, if I want to actually experience these things, putting in all that work is too much. So I'm going to find these other avenues where I can more or less get those same experiences.
And the advent of technology and just the modern world actually offers men, for very little work, the ability to engage with things that in the moment might feel fulfilling, but in the long term are destructive. Probably the most prominent example of that is pornography. We've talked about this before on our show, that men are sexually driven, and that is oftentimes the leading thing that compels them to pursue a woman. It's not the only thing, or it shouldn't be the only thing, but it's oftentimes the leading thing. Sadly, because pornography is so prevalent, every person basically at this point has a smartphone or a smart device of some kind. And no longer do you have to, pay for pornography. When we were growing up, it was dial-up, not broadband, high-speed, internet. So like if you were trying to access pornography back in the 90s, it just took too long. You have to spend all day downloading. Today, it's like instant. It's all over the place. And even if you're not going to specifically pornography sites, there's a lot of pornographic images or videos being disseminated upon, the social media platforms that are out there.
And a guy might say to himself, well, it's not one and the same. But it is subtle. And I think what men need to pay attention to is this idea that even a little bit, you can have your desires dampened or diminished by seeking out these experiences in all the opportunities in life.
And one of the problems with the advent of AI is the proliferation of new sexual content that can be curated simply by texting, typing in prompts for the most perverted male mind that exists. And so while men, by and large, in our culture today, sadly, are struggling oftentimes with an addiction to pornography, we're at the precipice of a whole new journey of addiction and dysfunction with AI, where men are going to be able to start, whether it's pictures or even videos, begin to create really graphic content that, they're not going to be able to find elsewhere online.
A lot of men, unfortunately, are willing to settle for, say, 80% of the experience for 20% of the work. And what men need to be doing, how they need to approach, how they need to frame this is thinking, okay, I'm not going to settle for 80%. 100% is the goal. And even if it takes 110% effort, that's what I need to do. That's what's good for me. And settling for something that's you might perceive to be as close as something you might experience in marriage, relationally or sexually. We can pursue intimacy that's almost what you would get in marriage for a lot less work. For a guy, that can be very appealing.
And actually, as we were preparing for today's episode, we came across some stats that were a bit alarming with regards to sex robots. 27% of people in Japan admit to having either had an experience with or owned a sex robot. And 15% of people in America admitted to the same. And with the advent of AI and just the way robotics are going, it's awkward, it's awful, but the reality is that men across the globe are trading in real women, real relationships. They're trading, sexual satisfaction with a woman in covenant with a sex robot. And it just highlights the brokenness of not just men, but the brokenness of our culture.
And the problem is when a guy pursues sexual behavior outside of marriage, it artificially satiates his appetite to actually pursue a relationship, because that's where you would have that experience normally. But if you can get all the benefits of that without any of the work, so to speak, too many men are willing to do that.
And we're not having conversations by and large culturally about the value and purpose of marriage. All we ever do is talk about you do you be happy. And the problem with the you be happy mantra is the fact that men will turn to whatever means is necessary to be happy. And so if they want to be sexually satisfied, they're going to turn to things like pornography or sex robots or something even more horrific that hasn't been invented yet.
Sexual behavior outside of marriage artificially satiates a guy's drive to pursue a relationship. And you could put it this way: if certain emotional or sexual experiences were only available inside of marriage, a lot more men would be willing to put in the work to get there.
Oh, 100%. It's so true. And I think that leads into the idea that there are men out there who are able to achieve the emotional satisfaction of connecting with a woman through either just being like a good friend, or they just connect online. And so they get that emotional kind of intimacy, so to speak, where they have that female voice, that female encouragement, that woman that they turn to when life is hard or they're feeling down. And they're able to find that emotional satisfaction that really should be found in a wife. And because of that, there's not the same drive or urgency to say, I'm going to pursue a woman because, particularly if you're addicted to pornography or you have your sex doll and you've got your emotional satisfaction with another woman in your life, a lot of men are like, why do I need marriage then? The amount of effort and work that's required to pursue this just doesn't seem worth it when I'm already, satisfied, so to speak, right now.
And to that emotional intimacy point, it can be, I don't want to say more problematic than sexual intimacy, but the dangerous part about the emotional intimacy is that the line you cross is not nearly as clear as it can be sexually.
For sure.
So a guy can pursue a woman emotionally, or there can be emotional expression that's actually unhealthy.
Yeah.
And far beyond, or even slightly beyond, what should be experienced within marriage. And of course, the goal though isn't to be like, okay, how close to the line can you get?
Sure.
Which, I think too many of us do that. How, what topics can I talk about with her? What can we talk about? How long can we talk? And how, what bond can we build that's still appropriate without actually being in a relationship or without actually orienting toward marriage?
Sure.
But a guy really needs to be thinking about, if I want these things, if I have these desires, or I have these desires, these are the things I want, what can I do to experience them in a healthy way, in the right context, in the right place, which is often within marriage.
Absolutely. And with technology enabling men to communicate via text or DM, via social media, there's so many avenues that men can use to emotionally connect with women, even if they have zero desire to romantically pursue them or have zero sexual desire towards them. There's just something about, the way of a woman with a man that can just cause a man to feel uplifted, can cause a man to feel encouraged, can cause a man to feel like he can conquer the world. And even if it's not someone that he wants to romantically pursue, there is something there about that female voice speaking into a man's life that can really change his entire state of being in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, look at junk food. You can eat junk food continually for a long time and it'll take the edge off your hunger. It will, it'll kind of satisfy your hunger cravings. It'll make you feel full sometimes. But, clearly the long-term life of living on junk food, you're going to have a bad time.
And that clearly is the case when men look for counterfeit opportunities to marriage. All right, so problem number 2, technology. And we've talked about technology in its different forms throughout the last 50 some episodes. But one of the things that we want to unpack here today is the fact that technology, whether that's social media, video games, movies, TV shows, even music to some extent, but really screen activity is what we're talking about today. It can just suck you in and consume your time, your energy, your drive, your resources, your passion, your creativity, and cause you to just feel lethargic, apathetic, unmotivated. And, again, you only have so much time. You only have so much energy. You only have so many resources. If that's spent hours a day on screens, that's hours a day that you don't have to be pursuing a romantic relationship.
It's actually, I would say, even more insidious now than it was, decades ago, because watching a passive screen, if you're just there passively watching a movie, that's fine. But one of the things to watch out for is that lethargy, the apathy, too much screen time. If you binge watch a, whole TV series, you come away from it feeling just kind of gross.
Yep.
Now, bring in social media, you have mobile gaming or even traditional computer gaming. There is this heightened sense of either accomplishment or work or, purpose. And so you have this increased ability to feel like something is being done or my time is being spent towards something. And that's even more dangerous because, men are putting their efforts towards something that really doesn't produce anything long term.
I think one of the things I hate most about social media is the infinite scrolling that was introduced however many years ago. And the idea behind infinite scrolling is in its name. You never get to the bottom. You never, ever stop seeing posts because, at least go back in the day, they would at least show you the people you were following. That doesn't happen anymore. They only show you a very small percentage of the people you follow, and everything else is suggestions. Everything else is advertisements. They don't want you to just connect with the people you know and then be done. You are the product. So you need to be on the platform as long as, no pun intended, humanly possible. And so they show you, the algorithm shows you posts, suggested posts and accounts that you might find interesting. And what that has created is a culture, a worldwide culture of people who just infinitely scroll for hours at a time. And it's happened to all of us. You jump on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, even Facebook, YouTube. You start scrolling and suddenly 90 minutes have passed, 2 hours have passed, and you're like, oh my gosh, where did all my time go? And you never stop scrolling after 2 hours and think, I'm ready to take the day. Let me go run a 5K. Let me, go build a business. Let me go out and serve the world. You're generally depressed because you just wasted 2 hours. You're lethargic because you've been sitting. You don't feel motivated to take on the day. If it's late at night, you're shy 2 hours of sleep now. The entire process is destructive to the individual.
So destructive. And on top of that, over the long term, the content with which a lot of us engage with becomes tailored to what we like or what we prefer. It could be politically, it could be, socially, or just hobbies, entertainment. And so we create these environments where we get to engage with something that we enjoy or that we find interesting for extended periods of time, when the reality is that almost never exists in the real world. You're dealing with people with different beliefs, different thought processes, and that's good and that's normal, and that's how we're meant to function. And the problem is when we allow screens to take up so much of our time, it actually inhibits our ability to engage in the real world. We're instead trade that for these times of just engaging with things that we find interesting, the things that we like, and then we try to go from that over to the real world with real people, with the problems and the differences and the nuance, and men are just out of practice.
And by and large, things like social media, a lot of, online gaming, not all, but a lot of online gaming, and then oftentimes TV show watching, sometimes movies as well, but oftentimes TV show watching, those activities tend to be done in isolation. They tend to be a one-person activity. And so it's not like we're anti-social media. We're not anti-games or anti-TV shows. What we are against is the fact that those environments allow you to slip into infinite scrolling, hours of gameplay, hours of binge watching, and your life is passing you by. And it's not just that you've wasted time. If it was only wasting time, that'd be one thing. But it's the fact that you don't have the energy, you don't have the drive, you don't have the capacity. Your bandwidth is now limited because it was all put into these aimless activities. And now the real world that you're living in, the opportunity to pursue a relationship that, yes, takes work, that, yes, takes risk, yes, takes time, you're not willing to put in because you've spent all that over here on mindless activities.
And these problems result in a snowball effect. Men, over time, are less healthy, less emotionally healthy, less able to engage with people in the real world, and the less emotionally healthy that men are, the harder it is for them to actually pursue a relationship.
And what that's creating is a culture of emotionally unhealthy people, both men and women. And so they're trying to be in relationships of some kind, and it's really dysfunctional. And anyone who's single and trying to be in a relationship knows this. Anyone who's been on the internet and found any type of, dating account knows this. There's so many dysfunctional stories out there from emotionally broken people. And a 2021 study by the Journal of Family Psychology found that people who are emotionally unhealthy have a 60% increase of conflict in the relationship. And it actually doubles the likelihood that they're going to break up.
And the problem compounds as the number of, say, emotionally healthy people diminish, just overall, but guys specifically. As the emotional health goes down, that's going to just reduce a guy's confidence that success is even possible.
Yeah.
And so that's going to reduce his drive, his motivation. Now, it doesn't mean he still shouldn't take some steps and put in some effort. But on the whole, men need to recognize as the emotional health and ability to engage relationally, as there are more problems there, as that reduces, men are going to need to put in more work. They're going to have to put in extra effort to get things to a place where it is healthy, to where they can pursue a woman.
Because so many men are emotionally unhealthy, they're not able to pursue a relationship in a healthy way. And so people are asking, why are men staying single? Why are they remaining single? They don't have healthy bandwidth. It's been consumed by pornography or other sexual misconduct. It's been consumed by technology, endless gameplay, infinite scrolling, binge watching TVs, shows, or movies. And so they're looking out at the real world, at real women, at real opportunities and saying, it's not worth it. And what's crazy is there's a 2023 survey that found that 50% of single men said that pursuing a relationship wasn't worth it.
And we are living in the long-term effects of what's happening. Too many men in a reduced capacity to relate are pursuing relationships with selfish desires, and that too often leaves her jaded or worse. And so we have now so many women who have unfavorable views towards men, often rightly so. And so to course correct, it's really going to start with men who are going to grow their emotional health. They're going to pursue women with the right motives, with healthy motives. And that, this is not an overnight fix.
No.
But if we're going to roll this snowball back up the hill, we're going to need a whole group of men, a whole generation of men who are willing to put in hard work for a long time.
And I think that's actually a great place to conclude today's episode. So, gentlemen, our culture doesn't just delay relationships. It dismantles the will to even try. Porn, games, and screens flood you with dopamine, mimicking intimacy or purpose, but they're starving you of real connection. Men trade vulnerability for safety, ambition for comfort, only to find themselves adrift in a world that profits from their disconnection. So, your homework this week is to see these traps for what they are and to take bold, intentional steps away from them. And it's hard, but it's worth it because real connection, real purpose, and real relationships are waiting on the other side. We'll keep digging into this in the next episode, so stay with us, take action, and let's change your future. As always, we love having you here on the Ardent Pursuit podcast, and we look forward to having you here next time.